Welcome back, skateboard nerds. This is part 2 in our How to Push Your Skateboard series. And this video is all about drills and skills to help make it easier for you to develop balance and confidence while pushing your skateboard. Everything from literally sliding on a blank deck with no wheels on your carpet and learning how to push and balance there, to sequencing those moves, with your wheels on the carpet. These little steps will make it really simple for you to develop that skill, and then we'll get right out onto some concrete, some pavement, and start pushing around, rolling around, and make it simple for you. Just a bunch of drills. We broke down the whole sequence of pushing and all the things that go into balancing and making that work in video 1. This one is all about skills that you can practice just to help you feel turning, control, balance, and power. Hopefully helping you build up to be able to push with some power and some grace, maybe a little more grace. We're not all super graceful on our skateboards, but it gets better and better with time, especially if you do the work. And hey, if you like these videos and they're helping you out, don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to look us up at USSEA.us, where you can learn more about even becoming a certified skateboard instructor yourself. Or just more information on how to learn, things that you want to learn, or how to help others learn. So if you're a parent helping your kids, jump in there and take a look at what we've got. And you can always reach out to us via email or in the comments, and we're happy to help you in whatever way we can. All right, let's get in here and break down these drills. Okay, so for those of you just starting out, it's really important that you make it simple. And the easiest way to do that is to take the rolling out of the mix. Start on your carpet and start with a blank deck. It's okay if it has grip tape on top, just you want the bottom to be blank, no trucks, no wheels, so it'll slide on the carpet really well. And you can actually just practice stepping on and pushing and finding balance in several different ways. The first move I recommend you make is a push-pull drill, where you just push forward and pull back. And all you're trying to do is keep that lead ankle bent while you push with that back foot well behind the front foot, and you're just feeling your mass sliding with that foot that's connected to the board. And this is really important. Again, this is all about, pushing the skateboard is all about balance on the front foot. You have to be able to push with your push leg, your back leg, freely, while you keep your balance on your front foot. So the push-pull drill is a great place to start. And then you move into multiple pushes. You can just push and slide around your carpet. Like, you can do it as much as you want. In the video I have here, I'm just taking a couple steps, but all I want you to do is just practice pushing until you can slide, and practice picking up your back foot and ending in balance with your back foot off the ground. This is huge for getting the basic feel for pushing. A really simple way to do it, no fear. Clear out all the sharp objects, of course, but it's a fun way to do it in your room. If you're working with a child or someone who's really fearful and apprehensive, what a great place to start. Keep it simple. Just get the foot on the board and start pushing, and don't swing the foot. You don't have to practice the big swing like you're going to do later on when you're building power. All you have to do is just practice a bunch of little steps where you're pushing with your back foot well behind your front foot, but all of your balance, weight, mass is stable over the board, over that front foot. And then you're going to want to move into using a board with wheels. So get your whole setup going, and first just practice balancing on it. And one of the key things is just to practice 1 foot balance. Just practice doing 1-leg squats. Get low, stand up, find balance where you can really feel yourself stabilizing on the board while moving up and down, and maybe swinging your leg freely and just getting a feel for that. And then the next thing you want to move into is just rolling the board. And your board will roll on firmer carpet. If you have really soft carpet, it probably won't roll much, but it'll still roll a little bit on most carpets. The nice thing about carpet is that it makes it really hard for the board to get away from you. So the wheels will be steady, and it makes it simple for you. So you can practice the same thing. Practice the push-pull, practice a bunch of small pushes, and just get a feel for it, for keeping that balance again over the front foot. And key, this is huge, always keep that lead ankle bent just a little bit. You want your whole foot to be flat on the board like we talked about in the push 1 video, but keep that foot flat on the board. Don't push yourself up onto the ball of your foot. You don't want to get that lead leg extended back where you're starting to tip the lower part of your lead leg back towards the tail of the board, because then you're getting behind the board, and that's not good either. So even when you practice on the carpet, try to keep it really connected where your mass, your weight, your core, your center of mass is balanced over that front foot as it rolls. And then always good just to practice sequencing the moves. And this is just a huge one. Practice on the carpet. You're not rolling. You're totally stable. You can develop balance on your front foot before you ever go step onto a surface that you can roll on, like smooth concrete or pavement. Okay, so let's take a look at maybe one of the first steps you should learn. And this is such an important move to learn, because this is really the easiest way to stop when you first get going. And by dragging your foot, you're not totally committed to balance on the skateboard just yet. You always have sort of that bailout position where you can get into it. So watch right here. Now, a couple things to note when you do this. One, your weight, balance, everything has to stay on top of the skateboard foot. So your front foot, your posted foot, that's where the weight stays, even when you push. You can see I'm keeping all of my mass right here on top of the skateboard, right? So this knee bends right here. The ankle is bending right there. And that's to really help me keep my center of mass more on top of the skateboard. So a lot of the pressure is going to be right down here on top of sort of the front half of the skateboard. So somewhere in that area between the ball of my foot and the heel of my foot, but most of the pressure is right there towards the front half of the board. Now, if I did this wrong and I transferred weight over here to this foot, if this foot instead was where my weight transferred to, I'd lose balance and I wouldn't be able to do this drill. So it's really important that you note balance on the front foot. Can't say that enough. It's so important. Okay, take a look at this now. Couple things. As I step, notice that it's a really gentle step. I'm going to pick my toe up right here, and then I'm going to immediately start to slide it into position, and I lift my toe up. So if you look close, right there, you can just see in the shadow that my toe is lifting ever so slightly off the ground this way. Really important that you do that, and you're trying to drag from the ball of your foot back to your heel by lifting your toes, and you're just lifting your toes ever so slightly off the ground so you get contact on the ground right there. Really important. And then you're just going to drag lightly. There's no weight on it. You're not putting tons of weight on it. It's just gently dragging. It's like, accidentally leaving your e-brake on the car or something. So there's that little slide. It slows me down. Once I feel like I'm going slow enough again, I'll reset, swing that foot forward just a little bit, give it another little gentle push, and then right back in to that slide. See the toes are lifted. Really important first step. Spend some time learning that one, because it's way less scary to do that than it is to take a step and try to pick your foot up off the ground and find balance on your skateboard. Start with this one. You'll really like it. It helps all of my students when they do it. And that little drag step, it just better to know how to stop before you get going, but a really simple tool. The balance and the posture doesn't change much. It's just learning how to drag that foot one little step at a time. And if you want, have someone hold your hands while you take those first steps. If you're nervous, if you're working with your child at home, hold their hands and just walk with them. You can walk in front of them or on the side and just be that little bit extra stability as they learn this. It's a really interesting and very, very cool feel. But, if they've slid on the floor on, hardwood floor in their socks before, they'll have the idea what it feels like to drag that foot. Okay, next up, you're going to want to learn just a slow step. Do your steps, your push steps in slow motion. Don't do quick little hoppy, bumpy steps. Try it really slow, just like this right here. So as you can see, I swing my foot slow, and my focus is on keeping my balance over that front foot. So every single time, always, and notice my arms aren't swinging a lot for this one, right? My arms are pretty quiet. I've even got like a weird focus stance going. I'm sure if you're watching this, you're watching me skate, not everything I do is pretty, but it does work. And Here's where you can even see I get a little hook finger going on there. That's some of the funny intricacies of just being me. Like when I focus, my hands tense up. It's a funny thing. But right here's a great position. You can see my body has got some forward posture, right? My spine does, my upper body, my the lower half of my lead leg is tipping forward. And you can see those two angles again. They match up. This is going to be a recurring theme. It's really important that you kind of get used to seeing that. These angles are pretty similar. If these angles are pretty similar, you're going to probably have pretty good balance. When those two lines change a lot, like you get over tipped, you know, and the spine tips forward too far, or the lower leg straightens up too much, that's where you're going to find you have balance problems. So try to focus on keeping this ankle bent, right? And keeping your spine forward as you take those steps. Really important stuff. So you'll leave the lines there for a second, but you can see, you know, just use them as a reference. You can still see that forward angle stays even as I swing the foot. And notice it's just a super slow. There's a long balance period there before I touch back down. So I'm not rocking back and forth from right foot to left foot. I'm staying balanced on my right foot, and I'm slowly swinging that foot and just being very careful and methodical about how I do it. Controlling my arm swing, controlling my posture, and then I just do the little foot drag to stop. This is an amazing practice, and pick a really smooth spot. This is a basketball court near my home, and it's a fun place. I take my kids there just to learn how to roll around and do different tricks. But that spot right there is just awesome for learning how to push, learning how to roll. And I think, you know, find that spot for you where it's just really easy and you can take those nice slow motion steps. Learning balance on that front foot. This is really critical. And then you get a little rest every time you put the foot down, get to recover your balance a little bit. But notice my right foot isn't changing position on the board. It's just right on the center line. It's pointed pretty much straight ahead. And I'm doing really slow, gentle pushes. Full pushes, but they're still gentle. So when you watch this in full speed, you'll see. Still very slow, gentle pushes. I lift my toes. I start on the heel. I push through the ball of the foot. So it goes heel, toe, push, heel, toe, push. It's a really important little combo. Just to make sure that you lift those toes up. It's just a good feel to make sure you're not dragging your toes when you swing your foot back through. Quick mental note, don't drag your toes on the way when you swing that foot back through. Okay, this one's really important. This is where you just practice balancing on the front foot while you're rolling. And there's lots of ways to do this, but I like to put my foot in the same position I'd push in. And then I just take a step, really gentle, really subtle. And I practice moving my foot a little bit as I balance on my front foot. So my front foot stays posted and my free foot swings around just a little bit, just so I get a feel for what it feels like to drag that foot back behind. Notice I'm not touching. And you'll also notice I put my hands out for balance, and you can see I might adjust my shoulders a little bit. I'm also adjusting my lead leg. So it's interesting, but your lead leg is like the game controller of like an analog joystick controller for a video game. And you can tip that controller left and right. You can tip it forward and back. You can maybe even circle it around a little bit. But in this case, I might tip that knee over towards the pinky toe side of my foot, and I may tip my shoulders the opposing direction, or vice versa, whatever I need to find balance. But I'm constantly kind of like someone walking on a tightrope. I'm just tipping my shoulders to adjust my spine angle, and I'm tipping my lower leg to kind of create counterbalance. So, you know, whenever you're looking at it, it's like if you look at my hands in the screen, if my lower leg tips this way, my spine has to tip that way. That creates counterbalance, or vice versa. We're always trying to counterbalance to maintain. And then notice that the ankle remains bent the entire time. I feel contact through the whole foot. And again, my spine is tipped forward. So these lines right here, they match up, right? So we got this line of the spine tipped forward. This line of the leg is tipped forward, right? The ankle is flexed right here. We got good bend in that ankle right there. And that keeps me balanced over the front foot. And so when I move this leg, I move it gently and carefully, and I'm making sure that I'm not adjusting any weight off of my front foot, my right foot in this case. even as I push or do anything else. I'm not adjusting weight necessarily in the beginning. Now, eventually you'll start to shift weight and you'll create power, but it's not a major shift. You're always hovering around the front foot. Just keep that in mind. You are always hovering your balance around the front foot. Super important. Practice this front foot balance as many times as you need to. It's just one of those things where go out and take some really slow steps and see how long you can hold it. Be prepared to run off the skateboard just in case, your wheel, you wobble, you find all kinds of different things. I mean, nobody's perfect and the wheels will bind and sometimes they'll roll. And if you tip back a little bit, that board shoots out from underneath you. If you tip forward, you end up stopping the board and running off of it. But as many steps as you can get, just practice this until it feels comfortable to roll for 10 to 30 feet on one foot. Take some time and it's going to feel way better if you do that. Okay, so once you've got balance and you're feeling confident, you can drag your foot, you know what it feels like to push gently and you're starting to feel confident, then it's time to build speed. And you're going to take more than one push. So you're going to practice a small push to a bigger push. Always start small to get things moving and then take that bigger push. Don't take the big push first and then a small push. Take a little baby push and then give yourself a slightly bigger push and build your speed that way. So right here, you'll see me do that exact thing. So here we go. Small push, power push. Here it is again. Small push, power push. It's really important that you develop, that feel for small, bigger, 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 bigger when you're pushing, because as the speed builds, you're going to have to swing your leg faster, and so you want to start small. Don't overpower yourself right out of the gate. Really simple process though. Here we go. Everything stays the same. You're going to note the lower half of my front leg is tipped forward. My spine is tipped forward for the small push. There's a little swing. There's a big push. And notice when I did that first push, my back foot, my pushing foot never passed my front foot in this case for the small step. So when I go, there's the small push. That foot swings up. It's pretty much right next to, and then I maybe a little bit behind, and then I give it that big push. There's that foot position, which if you check out the video for how to step on and step off the skateboard, you get that routine for front foot, back foot on, pivot the front foot, and the same thing. The same thing applies when we push. Every time you take a push, you've got to adjust out of your skateboard stance. So right here, notice if I was just going to push again freely, I would have to pivot my front foot back to straight. Then I could step off of my back foot with balance on my front foot, and then I could push again. In this case, I'm stopping the board. So I reached out in front and I gave it a little stop. Now I'm going to reposition. Here it is again. Here's that small push into the bigger push. And I keep that pushing foot behind the front foot in this case, just to help keep me forward. It really helps me stay forward if I don't swing that front foot past, or my back foot past my front foot in the beginning. Really simple stuff and just critical. Start small, work your way up. Simple suggestion, right? Okay, in this one, I'm just gonna build speed. So I'm gonna start small and keep building and building and building until I have to run off my skateboard because I run out of space. But just take a look. There's the smaller, bigger, biggest, and then I'm out of space. And notice every time I step off my skateboard or every time I take an extra push, I always point my front foot back to forward before I take that step. Here it is again. Small step. Notice my arms are starting to swing just like we broke it down in the beginning. I'm starting to get more freedom of movement. I'm not going to feel confident moving my body that way until I've had a lot of time practicing that front foot balance. All the different drills for front foot balance are critical. Spend a lot of time in those before you start trying to build lots and lots of speed. Be really careful with that. Okay, so as you skate or as you push, you're going to find that your foot sometimes moves on accident. And that's going to happen anytime you put too much weight on your pushing foot. And you might get little adjustments. So you'll notice that right now my foot's on the outside edge or at the pinky toe side, and I move it to the inside. Your foot's going to move around. You want to find a position that works for you, but you also want to know that you can adjust. Much like I always think of my foot as like the hands of a clock. I can rotate that foot across the board to help me find better leverage over one edge or the other. I can also lift it a little bit and reposition it with every step I take, which you'll see here in this next clip. Okay, so with this one, every time I take a step, you can see I can adjust my foot just a little bit. I can rotate it, I can turn the heel, I can turn the toe. Each one of those gives me a little more control. So that little foot swivel is one way to adjust the foot. Now in this next clip, I'll show you that you can literally lift up your foot and reposition it in different places on the board. So it's so important that you learn to utilize every opportunity you have. You can adjust that foot with every step you take. Every time I take a step, I can take a little pressure off the skateboard and I can move my foot a little bit. And you'll notice I'm starting to move it back. And when I finish, it's well behind the bolts. You know, it started out in front of the bolts. And every step I take, I can just make small adjustments. And that's really important. If you're making those small adjustments as you skate, then you're going to be in really good shape because you'll be able to adjust where the pressure is to redirect where the board's tipping and control the direction that it wants to go. And you can see that every time I adjust the foot, I get a little bit different leverage over the skateboard and it tips slightly differently. That's really important to recognize because as you get better at pushing, remember, you've got to be able to steer the board while you push. Okay, so speaking of steering the board while you turn, this is one of my favorite drills, and you can do it both directions. You can tip the board to the left or to the right and just push through a whole circle. So notice where I've placed my foot. I'm on the inside towards my big toe. I'm in the middle of the board, so I'm well behind the front bolts. This gives me better stability for this drill. And I'm going to take small steps and just walk through a circle. It's really cool and it's fun. It's just a fun drill, and you can always walk off the board if you lose your balance. Couple quick things to note when you're doing this: that your shoulders are going to tip away from the direction of travel, right? So if I'm tipping the board towards the big toe, then I'm tipping my shoulders towards my pinky toe, kind of like an airplane dipping its wings. But we do that for counterbalance because we tip the spine against the direction of travel. So then it keeps us from losing our balance altogether. Remember, it's like walking a tightrope. You're constantly working on that balance. So I get the foot in that same position. I've got my wings tipped against the turn, and I can just balance on it. As I get more comfortable, I can literally just hang on and ride one foot through the whole circle. And if I'm nervous or I need to put my foot down, I just step down with that free foot. But I'm learning to ride the board with one foot on my front foot as the board steers. This is such an important little step to take. I just did this one with my daughter, and she uses a longboard, which, by the way, a longboard is a really easy way to get started. They're very stable. They give you a wide platform of balance, and you can easily manage stability on those longboards. Whereas the bigger wheels, the longer length of the deck in some cases, the wider width of the deck just give you a lot of different options for stability. And what a great way to start. Plus, learning these little 1 foot drills is a great lead into maybe if you ever decide you want to get into some of like the board walking and all the different skills that you do with longboards. Really fun stuff. But the more you practice these little different ways to balance, the stronger your skating will be anyways. So really quick, just to note, take a look. Maybe we can get a good shot here where you can really see the shoulders right here tipped outside or towards the outside of the turn. The lower leg is pretty straight up and down, but it's tipped to the inside because all the weight's there, all my weight's on top of that. And you can see the board is tipping. So just give you a couple little lines to look at here, but here you get the board tipping on this angle, right? You got the lower leg kind of tipping maybe a little bit over here. You got the spine kind of tipping this way a little bit. The shoulders are kind of tipping this way a little bit. And that's creating that counterbalance position that's so important. And you're walking the tightrope. Whenever you're pushing on the skateboard, you're always kind of fighting for balance. And it becomes really microscopic adjustments as you get stronger. But in the beginning, there'll be big wobbly moves. So take your time. Remember to move slow through all these drills as you do them to keep yourself safe. I'm going to show you a clip of me going the opposite direction. It's the exact same thing. We just put the foot on the other side of the board and get it going. Okay, so in this one, you'll see me going in the opposite direction. I'll be tipping the board to the right, so towards my pinky toe edge. You get a little wobbly there, and you can see those corrections. It's really finite balance. But as I build confidence, and get my step right, get my wings right, then I start to be able to hold it and just find that balance while steering the board to the right. So you can steer to the left, you can steer to the right. So you can think your big toe side, your pinky toe side. I'm right foot forward, so it'd be opposite if you're left foot forward. But the idea is the same. Just get your foot near the middle of the board, get it to the outside edge or the inside edge of the board, and find that counterbalance position and let it rip. This is a really fun drill. My daughter, who's learning how to skate, she loves this drill just because it's the first time she started to feel stable while she would just keep her balance on one foot and push. So it's a really good one. Again, this will lead to confidence, in other ways for you as well. Okay, so back to this whole board steering concept while you're pushing. Remember, your lower leg's like a joystick, right? You can tip it both ways. And if your foot's positioned on the board how you want it, near the center line, maybe across it a little bit, when you tip your lower leg one direction, the lower half of your lead leg one direction, the board will tip that way and vice versa. And find that foot position that works the best for you to get leverage and feel for tipping and steering the board. But let me show you this video is really good. You can see the leg tipping back and forth and what it looks like to just keep pushing and keep steering. Another really important thing to note, if we take this back, just a quick highlight, the swing path of the foot is really important. So let's just talk about foot swing path. And that's just where your foot is tracking. How close to your skateboard is your foot tracking? So as you watch this one, note with every step, my foot's pretty close to the board. It's right underneath my hip. And at any time that my foot gets away from me and steps too far to the outside, I'm going to lose balance. I'm going to have trouble shifting. But that swing path is really important. It's really close to the board. So learn to push right next to the board so you can keep that swing path going straight. We'll just take a look at this real quick. You can see the alignment of it. So again, as I take those steps, you're going to see everything line up, and just that foot's going to swing very close to the board and stays close. If my foot were to go way outside, so let's say just for argument's sake that my foot was way out here on this path, my core right here would have to shift that way to allow for that to happen. And every time my core is shifting back and forth, I'm actually tipping the board and I'm going to lose balance. It's going to feel like the board's going to get away from me and I'm not going to be able to get back on top of the skateboard. So make sure that to enable yourself to keep good balance over your front foot on top of the skateboard, you keep that free foot, the pushing foot, swinging close to the skateboard. And now if you notice, you can see the lower half of my lead leg tipping to the left and the right, and the board is responding. So just that little movement, just that little joystick movement of the lead leg, the lead half of the lower leg, there it goes, it's tipping that way, right? So right here, we had a little one going, you can see this leg tipping here. So my board's going to go that way, right? And then in a moment here, the very next push you're going to see, it's going to start to tip back because I'm going to steer the board the other direction right there. There it goes. And so you can see that lower half of the lead leg tip a little bit towards the big toe. And there it is, really tipped towards the big toe, and the board's starting to turn. So again, we get right back into it. We've got this leg is now tipping more over here a little bit, right? And the board is going to start to go this way. And that's really important. Just note that when the lower half of the lead leg tips, right, you're going to have to adjust your shoulders for stability. And but the board's going to turn. It's going to respond for you. And that's really, really important because then you can control the board just a little bit. So I'm getting it to turn back the other way. Now watch the lower leg. It's going to probably tip the opposite direction right there. There it goes. You can see I'm getting out over the pinky toe. The board's turning that way a little bit. Now it's going to get in here on the inside towards the big toe, and I'm going to start steering that way. Those little steering adjustments are so important.
Not to mention the weird facial expressions. Focus face. Everybody's got one. But every push, I stay real close to the board with every push. I'm trying to keep my balance dialed in right over that front foot. You can see that lower leg's tipping where it needs to steer the board. And I'm still able to move the leg freely. So learning how to do that's really important. Find yourself a nice straight path where you can just take little pushes and then tip that lead leg back and forth and steer the board a little bit. Practice those steering circles. Those push circles are amazing. They'll really help you get confidence in steering the board as you push. And you're going to want this, especially as you develop skill. If you're skating through a crowd, you're skating on, a windy path, anything like that, you're going to want to be able to keep pushing, to keep your speed up. And by the way, just pushing a skateboard, awesome exercise. It's a lot of fun. You just figure it out. It's good balance. And then you'll start to learn how to cruise with it. And being able to generate your own speed is really important. It's probably one of the most important and critical skills you're going to develop. We've talked about all kinds of other things like tic-tacs and dropping in and all this sort of thing. They all are critical. Learning how to push, take your time, really get good at pushing and build your confidence with it. Okay, so here's just another look at it. You can see me pushing the board in different directions. Here I'm going to that pinky toe side and trying to steer it all the way around. It's hard to balance, especially at low speed, but you figure it out. And this is one of my favorite things. When you build up your speed, you can work on your carving. And we'll do a whole video on carving here shortly and just how to get that board to really turn, where to put pressure over which foot, how to tip the board, what the body should look like, how we create different angles to maintain balance while we carve. But again, start with pushing, learn how to turn that board through a push, and then we'll move on to carving. Eventually you'll be carving down hills and controlling your speed that way. You'll be cruising all over your neighborhood or your city or whatever it is, feeling confident. And this is a fun way to do it. There's lots of ways to get around. You can walk, you can ride a bike, you can drive a car, but there's nothing quite like skating where you want to go. And as you develop skill, I'll do a video as well on how to just navigate cracks and bumps and curves and things like that, so you can get around your hometown a little easier. But using your skateboard as a form of transportation is a lot of fun. And if you build confidence with it, you'll be able to get off the smooth basketball courts and get out and skate the sidewalks and the safe spots in your neighborhood. I always caution people to be aware of traffic. So wherever you skate, if it's in your driveway or you're using, smooth asphalt out on a street in your neighborhood, just make sure that you're highly aware of cars. Whether they're parked or moving, you don't want to run into any of those, and you got to be hyper aware of your surroundings. Okay, with that, I'm going to recommend that you get out there and practice. There's all kinds of different things you can do. Eventually, you can learn things like what's referred to as a caveman, where you jump onto the skateboard. One of my favorite, I'll give you one more little video clip here. I'll go get a shot of me doing an introductory walk onto the skateboard, which will lead into a caveman. But there's all kinds of ways for you to get out there, push your skateboard, and develop confidence and stability. And, you really want to build all the fundamental, build all those building blocks. You got to get them in place before you're going to be ready to move on. So if you want to get to the skate park and you want to learn how to ollie and all these different things, I'd recommend first you learn how to push. I mean, if you look at, maybe you read Rodney Mullen's book, where he talks about how he learned how to skate. I mean, he learned how to do all kinds of flatland balance maneuvers on a small piece of concrete, in his garage at home. And that's all he had. And look at where that took him. I mean, just building the foundations of stability, at a base level. What an incredible thing, just to spend time and really master all those different aspects of, for example, in this case, pushing. I hope this video helped you, and I really appreciate all the support, and let me know what else I can do to help you guys. I'll keep breaking things down, trying to simplify them and make them more fun and easier for you to do.
Our goal is to help you learn how to skateboard and understand more about skateboarding. If this video helped you, be sure to hit us up in the comments below and tell us what you'd like us to focus on for our next video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and then subscribe to our channel and tell your friends all about us. If you'd like to learn more about the United States Skateboard Education Association, please visit www.ussea.us. where you can learn more about how to skate, learn more about helping others learn how to skate, and become a certified skateboard coach.